Now, the war in Europe, Ukrainian officials say a commercial premises and about 10 houses were damaged overnight by a Russian strike in Sumy. Firefighters are extinguishing the blaze that started as a result of the strike. Now, spreading the offensive, Russia conducted a large-scale drone attack on the city of Odessa, injuring one person and causing destruction too. Head of Odessa Oblast Military Administration, Oleg Kiper, says one person suffered a leg injury. He also adds that civilian infrastructure were damaged in the city, including residential buildings and a car service station. Right away from wars to other matters now, South Korea's new president Lee Jae-myung has pledged to unite the people of his nation in his inauguration speech. The 61-year-old won the country's just concluded snap election by 49.4%. His rival Kim Un-soo, who is from the impeached President's People Power Party, trailed him from afar with 41.15% of the votes cast. The decision for a snap election was reached after the country's former president Yoon Suk-yeol was impeached for trying to impose martial law. We have more details in this report.
South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung, has mounted the saddle of leadership with no option than to face the daunting task of not only uniting the country, but also balancing ties with his most important ally, the United States, under President Donald Trump's no-nonsense administrative style. In clear reference to his predecessor, President Lee Jae-myung of the Democratic Party said in his inaugural address that he would never again allow democratic institutions to be threatened, adding that he would become a president who ends the politics of division. Speaking to a crowd in front of the country's parliament, President Lee accused political factions with no desire to work for the lives of the people of being responsible for the country's political turmoil. He pledged to build a flexible and pragmatic government, announcing that an emergency economic task force would be activated immediately. Although analysts and officials say his victory was a clear capitalization of political anger, some others say it is a remarkable comeback for a man who has been caught in several political scandals, ranging from investigation of alleged corrupt practices to family disputes. The candidate of the People Power Party, Kim Un-soo, came behind him with 4.15% of the votes, and the candidate of the New Reform Party, Lee Jung-suk, came crawling after him with 8.34% of the votes cast.
Now, for more on the South Korean election, global affairs analyst Collins Oweke joins me virtually from Brussels, Belgium. Good to have you join us, Mr. Oweke. I know that you have been following this election.
Very keenly, Precious. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so this is a very remarkable comeback for Lee Jae-myung, who has been caught in several political scandals, even with a feud with his family. But many say that this is a clear rejection of the ruling People Power Party and then a capitalization of public anger. I also want to get your reaction to that.
Well, politics sometimes can be a game of the moment. And that moment came for Lee when the, ousted president actually decided that he was going to roll back at the hands of the democratic clock of South Korea by, attempting an insurrection. And so he was skillful enough as a political juggernaut, a term we are used to in Nigeria, to seize on that moment to tell the people of South Korea that, look who you elected to be your leader, and I've always told you that he's not fit for purpose. Now, let's remember that Mr. Lee had actually tried on 3 previous occasions to be the president, the last of which he very, very narrowly lost to Mr. Yoon. So it wouldn't surprise anybody that he very skillfully managed that, situation, and so made the democratic institutions of South Korea the center stage of the, election that just took place, and so was able to convince, a very good majority of, South Koreans that he is the one that is capable of actually helping to solidify their democracy as opposed to his opponent. So yeah, it was a moment he seized on, and very skillfully too.
And an interesting part of that inauguration speech of his was the fact that he talked about ending political division. But some also see him as a divisive figure. If you remember, just over 6 months ago, he jumped over the perimeter wall of the parliament to vote down Yoon's martial law declaration. You know how very divisive that martial law was for the country. Is he the man to unite the country?
He has to make himself the man to unite the country. Now, we have to understand that, in politics, you have a moment where your job as someone in the opposition is simply to oppose. Even things that, sometimes you can live with, you come from a different angle, and that is political scheming. For some, it's allowed, for others, it isn't allowed. But once the mantle falls on you to lead, of course, it's a different ball game. Yes, indeed. Mr. Lee, by all accounts, is a very, very, divisive individual. And so, yes, your question is apt. How can somebody clearly considered to be a divisive person be the one now to unite a country that is politically divided? I believe that he has the skill, he has the political experience and the know-how. Don't forget, he is a human rights lawyer. He had been a mayor. He had been a governor of the most popular state in South Korea. I think all of these are going to melt into a pot that he can now tell the South Koreans, look into this. This is the democracy that we need, and let's all unite and line up behind me. I think he's going to be able to do that as a new role carved out for him.
And we also know that law enforcement, just because of what has happened previously, over 6 months ago, so law enforcement and fighting corruption is top on the list for his supporters. He's also facing corruption allegations himself. Does he have the credibility to become the anti-corruption czar for South Korea?
The credibility is questionable because indeed, he is under scrutiny himself. But we also have to understand that, until you are tried and found guilty, you remain innocent. I believe that, that is essentially the point he's going to be making when such a matter is raised. But of course, there will be people, there will be opponents and critics who will say to him that, getting to the point of even being investigated is a crime on his own, alone. But I'm sure he's going to be able to manage the, rhetoric so very well that they will believe in him and it wouldn't be a big issue. Now, we also have to understand that, of course, he is now immune, from prosecution and all of that. So there wouldn't be very much, legal distraction as far as that is concerned. But he's in a different seat now, and I think from what we know of him, from his pedigree, we know that he is capable and will muster enough credibility to steady the ship.
He's also taken this job at a time of President Trump's unpredictable brand of diplomacy. What task is ahead of him in terms of balancing ties with South Korea's most important ally?
Well, it's good you raise that point because, they were able to escape that particular political scrutiny during the election because he managed to skillfully put the focus away from the Trump tariff and the manner and ways that it affects South Korea. But this is not something you run away from forever. And now he has talked about his first task as being that of uniting the country. The second task, of course, is economy, under which the Trump tariff falls. From all indications, he has said that he is up for negotiation. He's not going to be confrontational. And so managing that skillfully with Trump and knowing the sort of thing that works with Trump, one of which is essentially massaging his ego, I believe that he has, enough tools to be able to, negotiate and come off, in a manner that works well for South Korea.
So I want to put you on hold, Mr. Weke, as we go on break. We'll expand what you just said further, but that will be after the break. Stay with us, everyone. All right, thanks for staying with us, everyone. We're staying on the just concluded election in South Korea, where Lee Jae-myung has been declared winner of that election, also booting out the ruling People Power Party. We've been speaking with Collins Weke, who is a global affairs analyst. He joins us from Brussels, Belgium. Thanks for staying with us, Mr. Weke. I want to stay on the point you've raised about, the balancing act of ties with, especially in the Trump era. Trump really doesn't have any distinguishing line between an ally and maybe what you would call a foe in that regard. But he's grouped everyone as the same. When you look at the tariff, almost every country got hit by tariff. And so I'm wondering, all of those military drills, and he's also very transactional. He looks for something in return. And so I'm wondering, where does that leave that military cooperation and the military drills between South Korea and the U.S.?
In a precarious situation, but it would have been worse if the conservative, candidate was the one elected, because he stands towards, United States of America and even North Korea are completely, different. And so for Mr. Lee, I believe that he understands the game of, give and take. And so, yes, one of the, rods that he will be pulling out of his negotiating toolbox would indeed be the military presence of the United States. And I think that the assignment, marked out for him is to actually understand how much that means to the United States of America under Trump, whom, like you mentioned, is indeed a very, very transactional president. And so I believe that, if he considered this as a very, very important aspect of Mr. Trump's, policies, and one that will benefit his presidency, I believe that he would dance to his side. Otherwise, I believe he would have to find something else. But the most important thing here, Precious, is that he would try as much as possible, like many other countries have done, to negotiate a tariff, which is what essentially Trump wants. He drops a huge number and, upsets everyone as a means of getting them to come to the negotiating table. He's going to take the bait, and I believe that in return, he will offer Trump, he will possibly, let me hope, I can't be sure about that, he will possibly offer Trump something that he can live with in Trump's interest.
Mr. Weke, thank you so much for your brilliant analysis as always. We will continue to watch out for Lee Jae-myung and whether he gets support for his agenda within South Korea and globally. Always a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for talking to us.
Always my pleasure. Thank you for